Jay Vardy.
Jay Vardy.
This Jay Vardy.
Jay Vardy. Thank you, Jay Vardy.
Jay Vardy.
Jay Vardy. Oh, Jay Vardy. Oh my gosh.
Hello everyone. Welcome to this video. This video is going to be my WWE SummerSlam 2025 Dream Card. I've put together 16 matches that I want to see at SummerSlam. I've put together 16 matches that I think you'll want to see at SummerSlam. And this is a SummerSlam Dream Card, but it isn't so much of a dream. I think it's realistic. I've put together what I think is a realistic match card because 95% of the wrestlers in this video are already active members of the WWE roster. And there are a few wrestlers who are not currently active wrestlers on a month-to-month basis in WWE that are on this card. There are wrestlers that are not even officially part of WWE's roster that are on this card, but the WWE has used them already multiple times. And there's a wrestler in here that is not currently under contract with WWE and is not currently an active wrestler, but they have been training, and I do think they're about ready to make their comeback, and I see that comeback coming back before SummerSlam. Now, that being said, I have 16 matches on this card. I do not think we're going to get 16 matches at SummerSlam this year. This is the first year that SummerSlam is going to be a two-night event. That's part of the reason why I'm doing a dream card for SummerSlam this year, because it is 2 nights. And SummerSlam has always been, my favorite pay-per-view other than WrestleMania ever since I've been a wrestling fan anyways. But SummerSlam is a 2-night event this year. I have 16 matches on the card, 8 matches per night. The WWE really needs to start putting more matches on their PLEs. I know at WrestleMania this year they did 7 and 7. And at WrestleMania last year they did 8 and 7, so they can get to 8 matches on a night. And I think on WrestleManias and SummerSlams, these are your 2 biggest shows of the year. I think if they're both going to be 2-night events, I think 16 matches is not out of the question. So that's why for me I have 8 matches per night. I doubt the WWE is going to give us that many matches. I think more realistically, we're probably looking at 12 to 14, maybe 13, either 6 and 6 or 6 and 7 or 7 and 7. But for me, I think they can do 8 and 8. That's why I have it. Now, another reason why I'm doing this video is because WWE right now is not in a great spot. If WWE was in a fantastic spot and every single card they put out are must-see shows and they're putting together really cool cards, I would have really no need to make a video like this. I mean, to be completely honest, I'm a little bit old to be making a video like this. I'm not, when I first started making WWE videos way back in the day, if I have any subscribers from those years left, I was a teenager. And then, I was in my early 20s, but, I'm no longer a teenager and I'm no longer in my early 20s. I'm not even in my 20s period anymore. So, I do feel a little bit old to be making videos like this, but part of the reason why I make videos like this is because the WWE is not putting together really good cards. There's been a lot of talk in certain sections of the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, regarding Triple H and his booking. Now, my view on it is that Triple H is not a great booker. I'm not going to get into a long discussion on this, but I'll just say this. I think he's a bad director of the shows. And what I mean, I actually talked about this in my WrestleMania review, but I actually think he is a bad television director. He's bad at, picking what camera angles and, what shots to open the show with. I genuinely think he's a bad director. I also think that he's really poor at storytelling within wrestling. And I don't mean storytelling in the matches themselves. He's actually pretty decent at putting that together. But his problem is that storytelling in terms of, conflict between the characters and enriching storylines that leads to big matches and, big time feuds, he's really poor at that. Storylines and feuds and major conflict between characters is almost non-existent nowadays. WWE is so focused under Triple H to present itself like a sport. And um, like for me, that's not what pro wrestling is. That's not how pro wrestling should be presented. Pro wrestling should always have enriching storylines and big conflicts between their characters and giant feuds that leads to big time matches. And I really think that WWE needs to start getting back to that. But it's not even just that. You know, those two things are both major things. But the other thing is that I don't think Triple H even puts together really cool match cards. Like if you look at the PLEs, you look at WrestleMania this past year. WrestleMania this past year had a terrible match card. Even on paper, the matches, like, forget about, you know, the feuds and the storylines within the matches, but like just the match card he put together was very boring. You just look at the list of matches on paper and it looks terrible. I did two WrestleMania 41 Dream Card videos before WrestleMania. I did one back in like September of 2024, and then I did another one in January of this year. So both of them within a good stretch of time before WrestleMania, and I think both the cards I put together were way cooler and way better than the card Triple H put together. Were they a little bit outlandish? Maybe they were a tiny bit outlandish, but um, I would say the vast majority of both those cards were pretty realistic, and I think both of my cards were so much better than the card we got. And I've actually already put out a WrestleMania 42 match card of my own. It's already up on my channel. I did a short version of it and a long version of it. There will be a short version of this video as well. This is the long version, so if you're like, oh, we're already almost 7 minutes into this video and he hasn't even shown us a single match yet, don't worry, this is the long version of the video. There will be a short version uploaded after or at the same time, so you can click on my channel to watch the short version of this video where I just go into the matches immediately. But the point is, I already have a WrestleMania 42 Dream card up, and I can almost guarantee that my WrestleMania 42 Dream card is going to end up being a much better card than the actual WrestleMania 42 when we end up there. And I can almost guarantee that this SummerSlam Dream card is going to be a lot better than the SummerSlam card that we actually end up getting. And this is a problem. I don't enjoy making videos like this and seeing potentially really cool matches that could have not only enriching storylines within them, but like they're just cool matches in general to get to the show in reality, and it's not even half as cool as the cards I put together, which is a real problem. It's a real problem that the WWE needs to address. Like, I, there are a lot of business and financial things within WWE that has kind of changed the product on the whole. And this is a whole nother topic for another video. I'm not going to get into this here, but the WWE formula has been drastically changed by the current business model. And you know, everyone wants to think that creative and business are completely separate from one another. They're not. A lot of like the business side of WWE affects the creative product that we get. I'll just say this: WWE nowadays is so reliant on advertisement and super high ticket prices for revenue because pay-per-view is gone. Because pay-per-view no longer exists, you know, was the big money maker for WWE for the longest time, was pay-per-views. You know, if you look back at old pay-per-view buy rate numbers, you would see hundreds of thousands of buy rates for pay-per-views every single month. And those pay-per-views were like, you know, $25 to $40 depending on what pay-per-view they were. And they were selling hundreds of thousands of pay-per-views every month. Do the math. That's, you know, tens of millions of dollars every single month in pay-per-view buy rates that are just completely gone. It's just completely gone because WWE doesn't do pay-per-view anymore. That completely changes how like PLEs can be put together. You know, you can't always do the coolest card. You can't always have a ton of matches because, you know, you have to pay the wrestlers, right? And you can only get so much money from fans and ticket prices, and you can only get so much money from corporations that want to advertise on your product. But in saying that, you don't have to make a profit every single show. And that's going to sound crazy to some people, but there are many examples in business where you don't have to make a profit on every single thing. In fact, I don't need to use real world examples. Just so there are tons of real world examples out there where a company will purposely lose money in one place to make money in other places. And the point I'm bringing up with this is you can lose money on a SummerSlam. Heck, you can even lose money on a WrestleMania. In fact, I would encourage losing money on a SummerSlam and losing money on a WrestleMania by putting balls to the walls, throwing everything you have on these shows to make them as great as they can be, so that after WrestleMania, people are like, WrestleMania was awesome this year. I'm going to keep watching. And or I'm gonna buy some merchandise, or I'm gonna buy a ticket next time Raw or SmackDown's in my city. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna keep watching throughout the year and supporting the company. SummerSlam was awesome. I'm gonna buy a ticket to Raw and SmackDown next time they're in my city, or I'm gonna keep watching every single week now, and I'm gonna buy some merch, and I'm gonna support the company because SummerSlam was so awesome. Let's say, for example, you have a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania plan. You have A and B, okay? Let's say you have two options for each show. SummerSlam A and WrestleMania A, you will have a terrible show, but you're likely to make a profit of $5 to $10 million. Or WrestleMania and SummerSlam B, you're going to have an incredible show, but you're going to lose $5 to $10 million. You should go with B. Some people would say the smart businessman would go with A. No, the smart businessman would go with B. WWE can afford to lose $5 or $10 million on a show like that because they can make that up through the rest of the year. And B, an incredible show, is more likely to lead to more fan support in the aftermath than A would. Yeah, in category A, you're making $5 to $10 million profit, but you're also scaring all your fans off with a terrible show. With category B, you might lose $5 to $10 million on that night, but it's an incredible show that's going to have people buzzing, and it's going to lead in the aftermath to all those fans wanting to come back to consume your product more. So in saying all of that, in the fact that WWE really needs to start getting better at putting together cool match cards, and the fact that this match card is realistic, and the fact that you can lose money on a show like this and it still be good for your company, I've put together a really, really cool card of 16 matches that I think are within reach of WWE. Like I said, there are a few names on here that aren't active with WWE on a month-to-month basis, but they're within reach. All 16 of these matches could happen if the WWE wanted them to. The WWE could take this card that I'm presenting right now, and they could make it their official SummerSlam card, and in fact, I hope they do. One last thing before I get to the SummerSlam card, I just want to say who I have holding the Money in the Bank briefcases for both the men and the women heading into SummerSlam, because Money in the Bank will be before SummerSlam like it always is. And I just want to say that I have Liv Morgan winning the Money in the Bank for the women. I think Liv Morgan is very likely to win Money in the Bank this year and become a world champion again at some point, and probably some point soon. And I actually needed to mention that I have Liv Morgan winning my Money in the Bank before I get into SummerSlam this year. And I have Drew McIntyre winning Money in the Bank again for the second year in a row. And the reason why I have Drew McIntyre winning Money in the Bank is kind of to give him a do-over from last year with the Money in the Bank thing. And I think they can even play on that over TV. The fact that Damian Priest cashed Money in the Bank on him, and then the fact that Drew McIntyre won Money in the Bank just to have his cash in get screwed up, and he wasn't able to capitalize on it. Drew McIntyre has a lot of connection to Money in the Bank, and I think giving it to him, they could really play on that. And plus, Drew McIntyre is kind of in a moment of stagnancy right now, and I think giving him the Money in the Bank would help to elevate him up, right? Like, I think giving him the Money in the Bank would help elevate him up and get him back into world title contention, which is where he belongs. I do not have Drew McIntyre cashing in the Money in the Bank at SummerSlam. I doubt I'll have an opportunity to say what my idea is for Drew McIntyre winning and cashing in Money in the Bank is. So I'm just going to say it here. If you want, you can skip ahead to the SummerSlam match card. I won't be offended. But my idea for Drew McIntyre winning the Money in the Bank is he wins the Money in the Bank briefcase, and John Cena holds the WWE title for the rest of the year. And John Cena's last match is scheduled to be on SmackDown. John Cena started his WWE career on SmackDown with a match versus Kurt Angle. He should end his career on SmackDown with a WWE Championship match versus Cody Rhodes. I do not have John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. I really hope the WWE does not do John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. It was not a good enough match at WrestleMania to run it back for SummerSlam. And there are much, much better options for WWE than building SummerSlam around a Cena versus Cody rematch. John Cena and Cody Rhodes should have their rematch on SmackDown, which should be John Cena's last match ever in WWE. And Cody Rhodes should win that match. Cody Rhodes should win that match, win the WWE Championship on SmackDown from John Cena. John Cena can retire on SmackDown. You can have Kurt Angle in the front row. John Cena can give Kurt Angle a hug. John Cena can lift Cody's hand up in the air. Fireworks can go off. And just like Hogan passed the torch to Rock, and then Rock passed the torch to Cena, now Cena can pass the torch to Cody. You always have a big name lose to the next big name, the younger big name, and kind of, give that moment where you lift their arm up in the air. Hulk Hogan did it for The Rock. The Rock did it for John Cena. John Cena can do it for Cody Rhodes. Then, as John Cena walks off and his career is officially over, have Drew come and cash in on Cody that same night. Because you're never going to have a bigger moment than John Cena just ended his career and just passed the torch to Cody Rhodes. And then Drew McIntyre, bam, comes in and cashes in. John Cena's already walked off. He's off camera. He's in the back. He's walked through the curtain. John Cena's career is over. And some people might say, oh, John Cena would be offended by this. You're going to ruin a moment of Cena passing the torch in his final match by having a Money in the Bank cash in. Look, nobody's more of a company guy than John Cena is, and nobody is going to understand a dramatic moment like this more than John Cena. The first ever Money in the Bank cash-in was on John Cena. John Cena knows Money in the Bank well, and he knows this would be a humongous moment, and this would be a huge, huge heel, heat wave of heelness by Drew McIntyre. He would get a ton of heat from doing this, and it would be a humongous WWE Championship win, and it would be a win that no one would see coming, frankly, because nobody would think that they would do this after John Cena just had his last match. But it's what they should do, and then it can lead to a Drew versus Cody match heading into 2026. They can feud to the Royal Rumble or whatever. But I actually have Drew McIntyre carrying the WWE title into WrestleMania in my WrestleMania 42 dream card. But that's my Drew McIntyre Money in the Bank idea. As for Liv Morgan, you'll see the Money in the Bank idea I have for her in this video. So like I mentioned already, there's going to be 16 matches in total, 8 matches on Saturday, 8 matches on Sunday, 16 matches in total for WWE SummerSlam 2025. So let's get started with SummerSlam Saturday. Kicking off SummerSlam Saturday, I have Sheamus challenging Dominic Mysterio for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. The story of Sheamus winning his first ever Intercontinental title is a big money story, and it's something that can really elevate the Intercontinental Championship. Now, I do not have Sheamus winning this match. I have Dominic Mysterio winning this match. Why? For a couple reasons. Number one, Sheamus winning the Intercontinental title for the first time is a WrestleMania moment, and it should be saved for WrestleMania 42. In fact, in my WrestleMania 42 dream card, I have Sheamus in an Intercontinental Championship match that he will win. Now, you want to build the chase up, right? You want to have Sheamus lose Intercontinental title matches between SummerSlam up to WrestleMania a few times. It'll build this story of Sheamus's chase. And Sheamus should lose this match to build on his chase to win the Intercontinental title, which he will do at WrestleMania, which will be a WrestleMania moment. But it will also be something that elevates Dominic Mysterio. You know, it will add to him and his heel persona. He was able to stop Sheamus from winning the Intercontinental title, which we know is a big thing for Sheamus and a big story within WWE. Will Sheamus finally win his Intercontinental title? And Sheamus should chase this belt up all the way up until WrestleMania. Dominic Mysterio will no longer be the champion at that point, but this is a good match for SummerSlam. This is a good opening match for SummerSlam. Dominic Mysterio should win, and this will build prestige for the Intercontinental title. It will build on Sheamus's story. It'll give Dominic Mysterio a big-time win defending that title, and Sheamus will eventually win at WrestleMania. But at SummerSlam, Dominic Mysterio gets the win. This is another match that's like it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that this should take place at SummerSlam. Bianca and Naomi, they'll have a really solid match. Naomi had a great match with Jade at WrestleMania, and when her and Bianca go at it, it will be a great match as well. This is a match that I'm really looking forward to. I really don't know who wins. I don't think it really matters. I just think what matters is this match taking place, and this match should definitely take place at SummerSlam. It'll be a great match to have on the night one of the card. It'll be a big match for the women that does not necessarily need to involve a championship. And that's the thing, you know, WWE's women are good enough. The WWE's women's roster, in a lot of ways, is more stacked than its men's roster, because on the women's side you have a lot of women that could arguably be, you know, women's world champions. I feel like the pool of women that can be competing for the women's world titles is much larger than the pool of men that can be realistically competing for the men's world titles. Again, that's probably another topic for another video, but the point is, the women's roster is so stacked that you can start having these, you know, singles matches on these big time pay-per-views that don't involve championships for the women. And that's a great thing for women's wrestling. It's a great thing for women's wrestling in WWE. Naomi versus Jade did not have a title in its storyline for WrestleMania, and it won't need a storyline here when Naomi takes on Bianca Belair. But this will be a great match. It's pretty obvious that this should happen at SummerSlam, and I hope it does. Now, I mentioned Drew McIntyre and the Money in the Bank earlier in this video. I have him facing LA Knight at SummerSlam. They could have both been in the Money in the Bank match. Maybe Drew won when it looked like LA Knight was going to win. I think LA Knight is probably going to be a favorite among a lot of people to win Money in the Bank this year. So if Drew ends up winning that ladder match, it can lead to a feud in the aftermath. And, you know, these guys have had some things to say about each other in real life after the Royal Rumble. So there's that added to this. And I threw the Money in the Bank at the bottom of this because if you wanted to have the Money in the Bank on the line in this one-on-one match, you can. Of course, if you're going to do that, Drew needs to win, but Drew should probably win this match anyways. But Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight, on its own, probably isn't a match that a ton of people would be excited for, but if Drew is the Money in the Bank holder at the time, and maybe even if he put the briefcase on the line in this match for whatever reason, it would be a match that I think a lot of people would look forward to at SummerSlam. And Drew versus LA Knight, yeah, a lot of people want to see these guys in the main event scene, but I think you got to build Drew up a bit again before he can win the title. Like, he can't just win the title right away. He's got to be built up a little bit after the last few months. So this is a match that I think should happen at SummerSlam, and I think it would be a pretty solid match. This is a match that I'm really interested in, and it has connections to my WrestleMania 42 Dream Card. You guys should really watch my WrestleMania 42 Dream Card. But what I want to see happen with the Wyatts between SummerSlam and WrestleMania is I don't care who's in the Wyatts other than the following four people. Uncle Howdy, Alexa Bliss, who really needs to join with him and join the Wyatts, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley. Why Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley is because I want to do something where Damian Priest's soul belongs to Uncle Howdy. Something that they probably should have done with Rock and Cody and Rock and Cena that they hinted at but they didn't do. And it probably wouldn't really have worked with those guys anyways because it's not really The Rock's gimmick. He's not The Undertaker. He's not Uncle Howdy. He's not Bray Wyatt. Rest in peace. So like that really wouldn't work. But here it would. And I think Uncle Howdy beats Damian Priest at SummerSlam. And the condition of the match is if Damian Priest loses, he must join the Wyatts, and his soul belongs to Uncle Howdy. And we're going to continue this on to night 2 of this Dream Card. So please pay attention because I'm going to bring this up again on night 2. But for this match, if Damian Priest loses, he must join the Wyatts, and his soul now belongs to Uncle Howdy. So Uncle Howdy versus Damian Priest with Damian Priest's soul on the line and him having to join the Wyatts if he loses, which of course he will. Uncle Howdy gets the win here and Damian Priest must join the Wyatts. Next up, I have the women's tag team titles on the line. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Remember, I have Liv as the Money in the Bank holder versus the Kabuki Warriors. And the women's tag team titles will be on the line. Pretty straightforward. I think this will be a really cool match. I think there's a pretty good likelihood of this match happening come SummerSlam. I haven't been watching Raw the last couple weeks because Raw's been so terrible lately that I haven't been watching Raw the last couple weeks. So I don't know if Asuka and Kairi are back yet, but they should be back soon. I think both of them are probably healed up from their injuries already. So if they're not back yet, they should be back soon. They'll definitely be back before SummerSlam. And Liv and Raquel most likely hold the tag team titles till that point. I really don't see them losing it anytime soon, and I don't really see them losing it to anybody serious. But the Kabuki Warriors would be a great team for them to lose it to. I don't necessarily have a winner for this match, probably the Kabuki Warriors, but Asuka and Kairi should be back for SummerSlam, and this will be a pretty cool tag team title match for the women's tag team titles on night 1, SummerSlam Saturday. Kabuki Warriors versus Liv and Raquel. Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, I assume, will be healed up come SummerSlam. If he's not, that's okay. I don't have a replacement match if he's not, but I assume Kevin will be ready to go by SummerSlam. And Randy versus Kevin is a match that was supposed to take place at WrestleMania. If Kevin is not ready to go by SummerSlam, which there's a possibility he might not be, but if he's not ready to go by SummerSlam, then whatever, they can find a replacement match, or they can go 7 and 8 for 15 matches instead. But if Kevin's ready to go, then have this match at SummerSlam. And I would actually probably have Kevin win. And the more I'm talking, the more I'm realizing a lot of heels are winning these matches in my fantasy booking. But the reason why I would have Kevin win this match is because I want to play on the fact that Randy Orton has not been winning PLE matches other than his win over Joe Henry at WrestleMania. I want to play on the fact that Randy Orton could start feeling that maybe he can't do this anymore and he's doing something wrong, and it eventually leads him to turning heel the way John Cena did, and eventually leads to Randy Orton versus Cody at WrestleMania next year, not for a championship, but Randy versus Cody at WrestleMania next year. And it's more likely that Randy will be the heel in that match, not Cody. So that's why I'm saying if you have Kevin win this match, then Randy can do that, you know, doubting himself and wondering if he still has a place in the business type of thing, and it eventually leads him back to Cena, and then he joins heel, he turns heel like John Cena did, and it leads to him and Cody eventually, and we will get to that in a bit on night 2 as well. But anyways, this match was supposed to be at WrestleMania. If Kevin's ready to go come SummerSlam, it can be at SummerSlam. My WWE Championship match is John Cena versus Braun Breaker. You could do it really cool by having it heel versus heel, or you could have John Cena turn face again before this match. But um, whatever they do, John Cena versus Braun Breaker kind of needs to happen. Like, you need to have Cena face Braun Breaker during this retirement run, because Braun Breaker needs to get in the ring with a big star like John Cena, and what better place than SummerSlam? Braun Breaker is one of the future world champions of WWE. You need to get him in the ring with John Cena before John Cena's gone. And like I said, what better place other than SummerSlam to do it? I don't know if WWE is doing a King or Queen of the Ring PLE before SummerSlam. I was looking at a couple different PLE lists. I looked on the WWE official website, but when you click on King of the Ring, it just takes you to last year's show. So, like, I don't know if they're doing one or not, but if they don't have a PLE for King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring, you can just have the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring tournaments on Raw and SmackDown. And I figure Braun Breaker wins King of the Ring this year, and instead of doing a King gimmick, he just uses King of the Ring to get a title shot against Cena at SummerSlam. It would be really cool if they did this heel versus heel, but I don't know how much longer this heel run for John Cena is going to last, to be completely honest with you. It hasn't really worked, but either way, I want to see John Cena defend the WWE title against Braun Breaker at SummerSlam. Breaker does not win the title at SummerSlam, but he will win it at WrestleMania. I have him in my world title match at WrestleMania as well. But that's the thing, you don't always need to win your first big WWE Championship match. You can lose it and then go on to win it at WrestleMania later. And you need to have Breaker versus Cena. Like I said, he absolutely needs the experience of being in there with a guy like Cena. What better place than SummerSlam? Cena wins this match, but Braun will get that title at WrestleMania next year. My Saturday main event is for the World Heavyweight title, and the Bloodline collides in a fatal four-way: Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn. This is a match that is really cool, you know, like, it would be like if the Shield had a triple threat match for the world title, or if Evolution, you know, had a fatal four-way or triple threat, where if you wanted to include or exclude Ric Flair for the world heavyweight title. You know, it's always cool when old stables, like all the members, have like a big match together for the world championship, or when former tag teams have a big match for the world championship. But this match, I think, is a lot more interesting than Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Roman Reigns versus CM Punk would be a lousy match for SummerSlam. We already saw them at WrestleMania. They should have been one-on-one at WrestleMania, but I digress. I just have no interest in Roman versus Punk at SummerSlam. I don't think a ton of other people are going to have interest in it either. This match, I think a ton of people would be excited for. And, you know, if Sami Zayn is going to win the world title, why not have him win in this match? You know, instead of having Jey versus Sami at SummerSlam, why not have this match? And, you know, you can have Sami win here. I personally would probably have Roman win this match, but, you know, if you're going to have Sami win, why not have him win in the Bloodline, in the match of the Bloodline, when, you know, a lot of people thought he should have won. He should have been the one to beat Roman before WrestleMania 39. I disagree. I disagreed with that then. I disagree with it in hindsight. But if Sami is to win the title at SummerSlam this year, why not in this match? How poetic would that be? But I also think this would be an incredible match. You can do it elimination style, or you could do it single pin style. You could do it no disqualification. You can do it however you want. I just think this match would be really cool. And personally, I would probably give it to Roman, but if you're gonna have Sammy win, why not this match? It would be a lot more poetic and a lot more cool than just him beating Jay one-on-one. That's all I'm saying. So that concludes my Saturday card. Let's move on. Night 2 to SummerSlam. I just wanted to throw a slide in between here. So there wasn't two matches side by side in the break between two nights. But let's move on. Starting with my opening match for SummerSlam Night 2, SummerSlam Sunday, is a 7-woman ladder match with both the Women's United States and Women's Intercontinental titles on the line. Remember at WrestleMania 40 when they had the WWE Tag Team Championships and the World Tag Team Championships on the line? They were called the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team titles at the time, but they weren't they weren't hung down together. So it wasn't like one competitor or one team was going to win both titles. You had the opportunity to win both titles, but they were separated. Like one part of the ring, above one part of the ring, you had the SmackDown Tag Team titles, and then the other part, like several feet apart, was hanging down was the Raw Tag Team titles, now called the WWE and the World Tag Team titles, which are much better names, by the way. But it's like that. You wouldn't hold both championships down on at the same spot. You would separate them, kind of like that match, where competitors have the potential to win both titles, but it's not guaranteed, and the match doesn't end until both championships are won. Zelina Vega is the United States champion. She's in this match. Lyra Valkyria is the Intercontinental champion. She's in this match. Ivy Nile, Chelsea Green, Mishin, Julia, and Roxanne Perez fills out the rest of the competitors. These women are all in the Intercontinental and United States title division. None of them are quite ready for world title matches yet. And Lyra versus Becky should be wrapped up before SummerSlam because there's a much cooler idea for Becky Lynch on this SummerSlam card than a simple match with Lyra Valkyria. And I think this match is a cooler match for Lyra Valkyria. Lyra Valkyria. Hard to say when you're trying to talk fast. But I think this is a cooler match for Lyra as well. So think of it, both championships on the line. We likely will have new champions. This is the kind of match that is a great way to crown new champions. Why not have Roxanne and Julia win them? One each. I would have Roxanne win the Intercontinental title, feud with Lyra for a few months. Julia win the US title, feud with Zelina for a few months. There you go. Two new stars, two young stars winning the titles. But yeah, I think this would be a cool match to open up SummerSlam Sunday. So while the last match wasn't a competitor will win both titles, nor was it a title unification idea, it was just a match with two titles on the line. This match I have as a title unification match. Enough of having two different tag team champions. It's a stupid idea. I mentioned how the WWE tag team titles and the World tag team titles are better names than Raw and SmackDown, but you don't need tag team titles for both shows. The WWE has far too many belts right now, and we're going to get into that a little bit more on this card as well, but the WWE has too many belts, and there is no reason why it should have two different tag team champions for the men. You only need one set of tag team champions. The WWE does not have enough good tag teams to justify two tag team titles. They have enough to justify one tag team titles, but not two. So this will be a title unification match. The Street Profits versus the New Day to create the undisputed World Tag Team Championships, and no more having two tag team titles after this. You only need one set. The WWE introduced two sets of tag team titles back when I was a fan, way back in the day when Kurt Angle and the One Who Shall Not Be Named were the first ones to win the WWE tag team titles on SmackDown. Then it went to Edge and Rey. Then it went to Los Guerreros. But ever since then, they've been having, they've gone back and forth between having one set and two sets. Enough of the two sets. Title unification match at SummerSlam Sunday, Street Profits versus New Day. I don't care who wins, but after that, No more 2 sets of tag team titles. Only have 1 set. I talked about Damian Priest and Uncle Howdy and the Wyatts, and how the only people I care about being in the Wyatts for the rest of the year are Uncle Howdy, Alexa Bliss, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley. And I mentioned how the Damian Priest would be putting his soul on the line to Uncle Howdy, and if he loses to Uncle Howdy, he must join the Wyatts, and his soul belongs to Uncle Howdy. Same idea here. If Rhea loses, she must join the Wyatts, and her soul belongs to Alexa. Is this a little bit crazy and goofy and weird? Yeah, it is. It's a little bit crazy. It's a little bit goofy. It's a little bit weird. But wrestling are all those things sometimes. And is it a little bit repetitive to have the same thing happening for Rhea and Damian on 2 separate nights? Kind of, but they'll be intertwined, right? Like on TV leading up, Rhea and Damian will be intertwined with the Wyatts, and it will lead to these matches. And also, it's going to lead to something else, because in my WrestleMania dream card, you should really watch my WrestleMania dream card, I have Uncle Howdy and Alexa Bliss versus Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, where if Rhea and Damian Priest win, they are released from the Wyatt family and they get their souls back. But in order for that to happen at WrestleMania, which will be a really cool storyline after 6 months of it, they have to both be forced into the Wyatts, and they both need to lose their souls in the first place. So, just like Damian Priest lost his soul and was forced to join the Wyatts on Saturday, Rhea will lose to Alexa on Sunday and be forced to join the Wyatts and give up her soul to Alexa. And then for the rest of the year, Damian must do Uncle Howdy's bidding, and Rhea must do Alexa's bidding, until eventually Rhea and Damian rise up to challenge Alexa and Uncle Howdy at WrestleMania. It'll be a really cool storyline. But before that, I think this match with this storyline would be really cool on its own. And, I'm ready to see Rhea Ripley versus Alexa Bliss again. So let's see Rhea Ripley versus Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. I think it'll be a really cool match, especially with the Wyatt storyline idea that I have in place and leading to another match down the line at WrestleMania. But Rhea versus Alexa, SummerSlam Sunday. Alexa wins, and Rhea will be forced to join the Wyatts. United States title match, Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa. This match did not end up happening at WrestleMania, which probably was a good thing because it would have been a little bit rushed, but most of WrestleMania was already rushed anyways. But they'll have more time to build towards this for SummerSlam, and I think this is a match that we're almost certain to get at SummerSlam this year. But Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa finally having their match at SummerSlam for the US title. I don't really have much more to say about this match, but yeah, Solo challenging Jacob Fatu for the US title at SummerSlam on SummerSlam Sunday. The TNA World Championship on the line, Joe Henry versus AJ Styles. They've used Joe Henry a couple times already. They used him at the Royal Rumble. They used him at WrestleMania. They clearly have access to using him. So this match is realistic. If the TNA World Championship is ever going to be defended in WWE, AJ Styles should be the first one to have that match, man. Like, how poetic would it be to have AJ Styles wrestling for the TNA World Championship in WWE? And a lot of people watching this video would have been like, you had your 2 world titles on the line on WrestleMania Saturday. You had Cena versus Breakker, and then you had the Bloodline match. Both world titles were on the line on WrestleMania Saturday. Well, that's because there's 2 world titles on the line on WrestleMania Sunday, including the TNA world title, Joe Henry defending the TNA title for the first time in a WWE ring versus AJ Styles. You can't really get much more interesting for AJ Styles at this point of his career than to see him once again wrestling for the TNA belt, but this time in a WWE ring. how big of a match and how crazy would this be for SummerSlam? And I'm pretty sure TNA would be more than fine with seeing AJ Styles win their title again and winning it in the WWE ring. I think that would be one heck of a wrestling moment. Okay, this is a match that I've been asking for a long time now. This match was on both of my WrestleMania 41 Dream Card videos. I did two of them. I mentioned that I did two of WrestleMania 41 Dream Card videos last year. Well, this year and last year, but before WrestleMania 41. This match was on both those videos. Um, this match would have been way cooler and way more interesting than the stupid CM Punk Seth Rollins Roman Reigns triple threat match that was complete and utter stupidity. I've ranted about that match enough times on videos. I don't need to keep doing that here. This match would have been much cooler. The only issue with this match now is that fans and CM Punk and Seth Rollins themselves are probably a bit bored of CM Punk versus Seth Rollins at this point. And especially now that they're having, CM Punk, involved with this Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Paul Heyman thing. By SummerSlam, Seth Rollins versus CM Punk will be completely played out. That's the only thing that's wrong with this match. But I have enough faith in Becky Lynch and AJ Lee that bringing the wives into this would completely rejuvenate this and completely make this match worthwhile to the fans' interest, but also to CM Punk and Seth Rollins in real life. You know, their problems in WWE aside, in real life, I'm pretty sure the idea of them wrestling at SummerSlam would probably be boring to them. But if you sold it as we're bringing your wives into this, and we've seen this before where wrestlers, male wrestlers teaming up with a woman in a big, huge mixed tag team match like this, where the women kind of steal the show. We saw that at WrestleMania when Triple H and Stephanie faced Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle. You kind of do that with this, right? Like you kind of build the match around Becky and AJ being here and this being like AJ Lee's first big match back in WWE. But I think it would completely rejuvenate the men in this as well. And I think both of the men want to team up with their wives. I think, they're interested in a husband and wife versus husband and wife, and I think so are the fans. And this match is still a lot cooler than CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, which I think would be a complete dud at SummerSlam. They should have had a one-on-one at WrestleMania, but that, again, we're not going to rant about that. I think this match would be so interesting in the feud leading up to it, but I also think this would be an incredible, incredible match. Punk and Rollins have chemistry in the ring, and AJ Lee and Becky, two of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time, this match would be incredible, and I've been wanting it for so long now. Please, WWE, give it to me. This is a dream match for me. I wanted it at WrestleMania last year. I want it at SummerSlam now. Please, please, please give me this match. For the love of God, give me this match. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee and CM Punk, husband and wife versus husband and wife. And the subtleness of putting the women in the middle makes, that's how you market this match, right? That's how you keep the fans engaged, because by putting them in the middle, it's subconsciously pointing to the fact that they're what's drawing you into this match, and I think that's what would draw people into this match. But please, WWE, give me this match while it's still possible. AJ Lee is not going to be able to wrestle, 10 years from now. CM Punk's not going to be able to wrestle 10 years from now. Give me this match while it's possible. Okay, we talked about too many titles in WWE, and that extends to the women as well. The women had Intercontinental and United States titles introduced into their division this year. They now have 5 championships plus a Money in the Bank. There are too many titles in WWE, and unifying the 2 men's tag team titles is a good start. But I mentioned earlier how the women's roster in WWE is stacked, and you have tons of women who could realistically compete for world titles. So in that sense, yes, you can justify 2 women's world titles, but there are too many titles in WWE, and if you're going to have the US and Intercontinental title, you can't have 2 world championships. I'm sorry, you can't have 2 world championships anymore. The women having 5 titles in their division, the 2 world titles, the US and Intercontinental title, and the tag team titles, plus a Money in the Bank for 6, that is too much. It's too much for that roster. The roster is super talented, probably the most talented it's ever been, but it's too many titles for that roster. It just is. The 2 mid-card titles were just introduced, so in saying that, you have to unify the world titles. You have to. And you have to create one undisputed women's world champion. Tiffany Stratton, the WWE Women's Champion. Io Sky, the Women's World Champion. I don't see either of them losing those belts anytime soon. You might as well have them carry it to SummerSlam. And why is Jade here? Well, just like I had Braun Breaker winning the King of the Ring and getting a title shot at SummerSlam, I have Jade winning Queen of the Ring and getting a shot at SummerSlam. Plus, her and Tiffany are already feuding. Triple threat to create the women's undisputed world champion. Tiffany walks in as a champion, Io walks in as a champion, Jade is in there as Queen of the Ring. Triple threat. Now you have 2 options. Either Tiffany wins and then Liv Morgan cashes in on Tiffany, or option 2, Liv Morgan cashes her Money in the Bank in the middle of this match, turning it into a fatal 4-way, and Liv Morgan wins. Either way, Liv Morgan wins this match, and it leads to a Tiffany-Liv Morgan feud. Personally, I would have Tiffany win, and then have Liv Morgan cash in, while she's celebrating somehow. You can have Raquel come out and beat up Tiffany, and then Liv comes out to cash in her Money in the Bank, and she wins the title, and Liv Morgan leaves your undisputed women's world champion and feuds with Tiffany for a while, which eventually will lead to Tiffany winning the title back, Jade Cargill winning the Women's Royal Rumble, and then Tiffany and Jade at WrestleMania 42 for the undisputed Women's World Championship one-on-one. If you don't want Jade to take the L here, you can have Tiffany pin Io, or you could just have Liv cash in the middle of the match and pin Tiffany herself to win the championship. But either way, Liv Morgan leaves as undisputed women's world champion. Tiffany will win it back at some point, probably towards the end of the year. Jade will win the Women's Royal Rumble, and then Tiffany and Jade one-on-one for the undisputed women's world championship at WrestleMania. Which leads us to the main event of SummerSlam 2025. 20 years ago, there was a huge match at SummerSlam, and I can't believe I'm saying 20 years ago, because I remember this match like it was yesterday. I was 14 at the time, going on 15. And, wow. Sorry, I just need to take a second to let that sink in. Oh, man. 20 years ago, at SummerSlam, there was a huge one-on-one, big-name match in the main event of the show where no championship was on the line, but it was 2 humongous name wrestlers bringing a several-month feud to an end when it was Legend versus Icon, Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels. The match itself was what it was. We don't need to talk about the match itself because that match is pretty infamous nowadays of what the actual match ended up being like, but the build-up to that match was spectacular. And just go look up SummerSlam 2005 posters. It was Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan's face right up close to one another with the SummerSlam logo in between them. Kind of like the thumbnail of this video. Not this image specifically, but the thumbnail of this video. The point is, that's what this SummerSlam should be built around. This SummerSlam is 2 nights, but every single poster should be The Rock versus Cody Rhodes. That's what this SummerSlam should be. That's what this SummerSlam should be about. It's what it should be built around. Cody Rhodes and The Rock should come head to head at SummerSlam this year. I don't know how likely this is, but that is exactly what the main event of SummerSlam should be this year. Roman Reigns and CM Punk will be a dud. Cody and John Cena will be a dud. Cody versus The Rock, on the other hand, is it's a massive, massive, massive match. It's a massive match. And it's what this SummerSlam should be built around. And The Rock is a board member of WWE, and The Rock has been involved with WWE for a couple years now. If he's going to do a match with Cody, it should be at SummerSlam. Because if it doesn't happen at SummerSlam, then it's likely going to happen at WrestleMania next year. But the thing is, The Rock and Roman Reigns is the WrestleMania match. That's another reason why I want Rock and Cody at SummerSlam. So Rock can have his match with Roman Reigns. Here's the thing. If Rock has 2 matches left in him, one versus Cody, one versus Roman, then let's do Cody at SummerSlam and then Rock and Roman at WrestleMania 42. Not Cody at 42 and Roman at 43. Rock is getting older, but so is Roman. You want to do Rock versus Roman while they're relatively able to put on a half-decent match together. So that's why they need to have their match at WrestleMania 42. But you need to do Rock and Cody first. And SummerSlam is a great spot to do it. And like I said, you had that match between Hogan and Michaels, which was a massive, huge money match that you could argue was a WrestleMania worthy match in terms of name value and, draw power and star power, etc. And it is. The match itself, no. But like the star power involved, absolutely that's a WrestleMania match. But they did it in the main event of SummerSlam. So can Rock and Cody. This is what's best for business. Building this SummerSlam around the final boss versus the American Nightmare and them finally having their collision in the main event of SummerSlam. SummerSlam Night 2, main event, Rock versus Cody. How I would do this is because if this match happens at SummerSlam, which it should, you're guaranteed Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania next year. Rock's not going to wrestle at SummerSlam and then not wrestle at WrestleMania. And Rock's not going to wrestle at SummerSlam to wrestle Cody again at WrestleMania. If Rock's wrestling at SummerSlam, it's so him and Cody can wrap up their feud so Rock and Roman can have theirs at WrestleMania, which is exactly what should happen. Rock kind of needs to win. Because you need to have Rock being as high profile as he can be heading into WrestleMania. But you can't end this feud with Rock going over. So this is the tough thing. But here's what you do. If you can convince Rock to do this match, which really won't be that hard, all you need to do is let him have the creative control over the feud heading into the match and he'll do it. Which, give it to him. Look at what he did with WrestleMania 40, the final boss, and that entire situation with WrestleMania 40 Night 1 and Night 2 being combined of Rock and Roman versus Cody and Seth, leading to Roman versus Cody. Just give him the creative control to do what he needs to do for this match heading into SummerSlam. But if you can convince him to do this match, and you say, Rock, you're going over, because we need you strong for Roman when you face him at WrestleMania 42. But we can't end this feud with Cody losing. What if our Hell in a Cell match, because there's a Hell in a Cell match every year in WWE nowadays, is you and Cody in a rematch? I don't know what PLE is scheduled for between SummerSlam and Survivor Series, if it's Bad Blood again or whatever it is. But that could be this year's Hell in a Cell match. You do Rock and Cody at SummerSlam where Rock goes over, and then you do Rock and Cody inside Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood or whatever PLE is between SummerSlam and Survivor Series. Or you could just have the Hell in a Cell be at Survivor Series and not do War Games this year. That's possible. That could work, because then you have Rock at SummerSlam and Survivor Series. That actually could really work now that I think about it. instead of doing War Games, just do Hell in a Cell. But whatever you do, you have Rock go over at SummerSlam, and then you have Cody go over inside Hell in a Cell. And then that way, Rock can still have the victory over Cody heading into his match with Roman. But then Cody also goes over to end his feud. That's how you do this. But the point is, Rock and Cody is a must for me for SummerSlam this year. To me, if this match doesn't happen, then SummerSlam's pointless. You know, SummerSlam, to really matter, kind of needs this match, doesn't it? Because if their alternatives are, oh, we'll do Cody versus Cena #2, and we'll do Roman Reigns versus CM Punk, like, we saw both of those at WrestleMania, man. And it didn't work out. Both of them were ultimately duds at WrestleMania. WrestleMania 41 was a dud show. Let's be honest with ourselves. So running it back to those ideas for SummerSlam would not be great. Cody versus Rock would make SummerSlam matter. And SummerSlam should matter. This is your second biggest show of the year. Let's prove that, and let's kind of give an apology for this past WrestleMania. Let's do Rock versus Cody at SummerSlam. And like I said, you already have a match that's similar in stature to this that happened at SummerSlam 20 years ago in Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan. You guys can do a better match than what those two guys did. But the point is, in history, there is evidence that a giant match of this magnitude can happen at SummerSlam. And for SummerSlam to really matter, it kind of needs to happen. Rock versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. Let's get it done. One last thing I want to say about this match is I have Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 42. If you know you're doing this match, and if you know it's going to lead to a Hell in a Cell rematch at Survivor Series, Cody will win the Hell in a Cell, but he needs to lose here. Randy Orton loses to Kevin Owens on Saturday. He doubts himself. He wonders if he can still do this, but then he remembers his old foe going heel against Cody Rhodes, and his old foe getting a victory over Cody Rhodes, and his old foe selling his soul to The Rock. Why not have Randy Orton sell his soul to The Rock on the night of SummerSlam? And instead of having what they should have done with John Cena, The Rock, and Travis Scott, you can do The Rock, Travis Scott, and Randy Orton for the rest of the year. And it'll eventually lead to Randy versus Cody at WrestleMania. Randy Orton comes out, RKO's Cody Rhodes, sells his soul to The Rock. They don't have to use that vernacular because I want to save that for Uncle Howdy and Damian Priest and Alexa Bliss and Rhea Ripley. But Randy Orton, or you could have it mentioned 3 times. Who really cares, man? But because Rock already mentioned it anyways. But Randy Orton comes out and he RKO's Cody and he gives himself up to The Rock. The Rock beats Cody Rhodes, and then it's Randy Orton, The Rock, and Travis Scott for the rest of the year, and it'll eventually lead to Cody versus Randy at WrestleMania, and you can even have a really big tag team match before WrestleMania with Cody and Roman versus Rock and Randy Orton. How cool would that be? But my main event of SummerSlam in general, the entire event, but SummerSlam Sunday, the main event, The Rock versus Cody Rhodes. Let's get this feud over, but let's enjoy it while it happens. Rock and Cody 1 at SummerSlam, Rock and Cody 2 inside Hell in a Cell at Survivor Series. But on this night, The Rock goes over Cody Rhodes, and it will be the beginning of, leaving the breadcrumbs towards the trail of Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 42. That is my 16 matches for SummerSlam 2025. Pretty cool card, right? I bet this card will be a lot better than the card WWE actually puts together. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know which of these matches is your favorite idea for a match. A lot of people will probably say Cody versus Rock, but other than Cody versus Rock, what match on this card of mine do you like the most and would you want to see the most? Let me know. And go watch my WrestleMania Dream Cards and the short version of this video as well. If you just want to see the matches again, just quickly watch the short video on my channel. But WrestleMania Dream Cards are up on my channel. So are a lot of other cool wrestling videos. But I'm Jay Vardy. That's my SummerSlam Dream Card. Thank you so much for watching.